Good morning. Welcome into the Martin Houston Show on Tide 100.9 on your radio dial. Having a little tough technical difficulty on the radio side of things, and I am live and local with you on this side of the airwaves. I'm going to continue to work on that side of things, but until then, try to get an X in on Restream, and then we'll connect on the radio side of things on this beautiful morning. Thank you so much for getting up and Adam with us on Tide 100.9. This is the Martin Houston Show, and we'll be pushing things right on down the road on this beautiful Thursday morning. So thank you so much. Remember that we're broadcasting live on Facebook at Martin Houston Live, at the Martin Houston personal page, Tide 109, X's and O's Sports, Alabama Tradition, on YouTube at Martin Houston Live, as well as on Twitter at Martin Houston 35. So glad that you've chosen to be with us. At this time, we do not have the option to have the phone lines. The Alabama One hotline is not open right now, but as soon as we're able to open it up, we will open it up there and let you know that you can call in. Until then, all of you who are listening out there on the online world, you're always welcome to chat, add us your thought, your comments, your ideas, and your suggestions. So let me hear from you if you want to get in on the conversation. So remember that this is the day that the Lord has made. So let's rejoice and be glad in it. Let's take some time today to notice someone, love someone, serve someone, be the difference you want to see in the world today. Well, of course, big news, Alabama getting yet another opportunity to pull in another big time recruit. So we're excited to have have them as a part of that conversation, as Alabama has learned about another big commitment. Hey, 66 days away from Alabama, and interesting to note. Bryce Young getting some comparisons his skill set to uh, Aaron Rodgers, a great, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, that he actually himself says that his game reminds him of, or that's his favorite player, is actually the great Aaron Rodgers, who is one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game, despite having to set some time behind the great Brett Favre. So we'll watch him, look at him, bring that into the circumstance and the situation. So uh, we'll continue to move forward and try to get things, as I said, up on the other side the radio airways. But until then, we'll keep pushing along. Yesterday, I started some conversation with the guys, and you're welcome to bring that back up regarding the Heisman trophy and what happened with them in terms of the should it be revoted? Should voters' uh, opportunities be taken away? Should we change when the voting happens? Should we change several other things? Should they actually add another opportunity there so we can talk about that as well? But one of the things I want to circle back on yesterday and see if I can get some interactions from you guys is this Eli Ricks thing. I mean, undoubtedly, I didn't get to watch. I will be honest with you. I heard of Eli Ricks when he was at LSU. I saw him play a little bit when he was at LSU, but I did not watch him exclusively. I do remember hearing and talking about Stingley a lot, but not so much Eli Ricks. So to see how much love he's getting after not playing very much last year, after not doing anything once he not a lot really being on campus, and I understand still recovering completely from the injury, uh, but yet you see him just thrown into every top category. And as we talked about yesterday, Matt Miller of has his own draft board, and he actually has him as the first DB off the board and has him ranked so high that he think he not only will he be the first DB off the board, but he'll be a top 5 pick, like number 4. You know, it'll be interesting to see. I'm just not sold yet because I'm not sure that he's even gonna win and break into um, the starting lineup at the University of Alabama. So, uh, in your opinion, does Eli Rick break into the starting lineup because he's gotten so much love? Uh, all first team All SEC, uh, preseason All American, top 10 in virtually every mock draft. And I asked a question on yesterday: is he potentially being set up? And when I say a bust, understand what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the fact that the guy isn't going to be a player, contributor, and even potentially good here. But his ceiling, you're setting his ceiling so high. Is it going to be possible that he could end up being one of the major bust risk for Alabama, meaning that he doesn't live up to the expectations that's being placed on him? Not of his own doing. I understand that. I've not heard Eli Rick come out and say anything about how good he's going to be and where he's going to be ranked. This is also, um, you know, and the key is what is he ranking? Curtis Lewis saying, "I feel Rick's." Um, I would agree that Kool Aid McKinstry. I can't disagree. Uh, Kool Aid was the best returning guy. Rick is the most talented coming in guy and has some experience. So, CL, I would tend to agree with you that that he has the highest potential ceiling. But will a guy like Kyrie Jackson, who's a senior, who got some playing time, 6'3", right at 200 pounds, will he push Eli Rick? Now, Eli Rick's a big DB, 6'2", 190. If his head's right, and he comes in and gets things. Fortunately for him, the Mississippi State case was passed and corrected and passed on. So yeah, let's see what we can do there in terms of what's happening in terms of Eli Ricks. Is he that guy? I'm going to go to break here. Hopefully, I can get connected on the other side of the radio. If not, we'll keep talking right here on all the Facebook outlets and online on the Martin Houston Network online. We'll continue to do that right here on Tide 100.9 via restream this morning. The Martin Houston Show is live and local. Gonna take a break here. Please give me a moment as we step away for just a moment, but we'll be back here in just a couple minutes to continue the conversation about Eli Ricks. We'll see if we can bring X's and O's, Xavier Houston in, as well as get reconnected. Thank you guys for being a part of the show. More Martin Houston Show right here on Tide 100.9. All right, welcome back into the Martin Houston Show on Tide 100.9. Let's see if we can bring X's and O's in via a different way this morning. Good morning, X. How you doing, sir? Doing well, doing well. Hey, look at it, man. We were talking in that first quarter. We were talking about, is Eli Ricks overrated, potential bust? Curtis Lewis saying he feels that Ricks is the best DB we have on this team, with Kool-Aid being second. I was starting to run down the list a little bit. X. We got some guys that are going to try to make a difference. We're going to see what happens with this defensive backfield. Kool-Aid McKinstry, of course, I think has his position locked down. Kyrie Jackson's going to make Eli Rick play to be on that field. What are your thoughts in terms of Kyrie Jackson's possibility of holding off Ricks as a starter, despite the fact that Ricks has really, really superior talent when it comes to playing the defensive backfield? When you look at Eli Ricks, it's no doubt that he's probably
most talented DB on Alabama's team. Him and Kool Aid McKinstry, or cornerback, I'll say corner. Him and Kool Aid McKinstry are probably very close, and I'll give Eli the edge just because he's a little bit older. But when you look at a guy like Kyrie Jackson, you look at that raw size, that ability to be physical. 6'3", 200 pounds, doesn't mind getting his nose dirty. I actually watched a video of him yesterday that Jordan Battle recorded of Kyrie and Brian branch racing. And Kyrie's got some wheels. He beat Brian by a good bit in their race. But does he have the ability to hold off an Eli Ricks? I'll say yes because of his time in the system. You're talking about Eli just now really truly getting healthy versus a guy that's been in the system for a year and putting in the work. But I don't know if he can hold off an Eli Ricks just purely off of talent.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you look at that, I don't know the answer to that either. But we also heard DC talking about Terrion Arnold, redshirt freshman, um, and the dual sport athlete, a little smaller from the DB standpoint, bigger than the DBs we used to get, but smaller than the ones some of the ones we have. 6 foot 188. Christian Story, another DB. Do we see Christian Story potentially if Rick steps up and Arnold steps up, Malachi does what he does and continues to improve? Uh, 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 will Fagans be a safety or a cornerback? I mean, there's some other guys that could be some potential dogs. Don't forget about we do now have a Devontae Smith DB on that side. Jaquez Robinson. All of those guys are legit talents for the most part, and guys who can play at this level. Do we see potentially a Christian Story maybe get kicked over to the offensive side of the ball?
Now that would be really interesting to see if something like that was to happen because you look at a guy like Story and he's a really talented kid. It's hard to keep guys like that off the field, but I think 2 years going into year three now on the defensive side of the ball, I think we're going to really have to see some things shake up for that to happen. Maybe you have a situation you don't want this to see him go to offense. I think you'll have to see a situation like last year where you started seeing some injuries, and I'm talking about multiple injuries in the defensive on the wide receiver side and things of that nature to see that possible. I think Story's a very talented safety, and when we talk about safeties, the only guy that we really talk about that plays a true safety that we think can get on the field is Terry and Arnold. Christian Story to me is the next guy up as far as a true safety. Yes, you can play Branch there, you can play Moore there, you can play Arnold there, but they're tweeners, they're cornerbacks, they're safeties, they're what you need them to be versus where he really fits that battle Helms mold.
Yeah, so that'll be an interesting thing, interesting story to watch. Whether Christian Story uh, will make it onto the field as a DB, or will he look to potentially make that move over to the offensive side of the ball. But I mean, because you have to understand that dude like has all of the state records for Alabama. I mean, he was a legit offensive weapon, quarterback, running, throwing, total yards. I mean, I don't know what all. He has a whole slew of running backs. So we're not talking about a guy that couldn't have gotten a scholarship as an offensive player and an offensive weapon. And with the fact that Alabama has brought in transfer DBs, I mean, transfer wide receivers, etc., do we see that as a possibility? A conversation we were having yesterday, Xavier, around that first round um, was around some of the guys being picked in the first round, and um, of course, Matt Miller, ESPN NFL draft analyst, made the comment that he thinks that Will Anderson will be, the number one overall pick. The 6'4", 243-pound weapon is the best way to put it. He compared him to Von Miller. Uh, and said he's not as supersized as Joey or Nick Bosa or Chase Young in terms of his frame, but his quickness and power getting to the quarterback, of course, had a statistical uh, Heisman Trophy season, in my opinion. But that's not the conversation. The conversation is not even around um, Eli Rick being at number 4, because we know he has the talent if he gets on the field and lives up to it. He has the talent to be a top guy like that. Then the other side of that is you go down and he said Toa makes it into the first round. You know, but the Toa, coming here, we were talking about him being that type of player. But ultimately, X, you got to look at him saying that he thinks that Alabama picked up another first round wide receiver in Jermaine Burton. What are your thoughts in terms of that?
If Jermaine Burton is another first round wide receiver, I think that bodes really well for Alabama and the offense this year when you're talking about replace. We might not have two, but two this year, like it seems to become a trend. But if we can have another first round wide receiver, if we can have that big play threat with a Tyler Harrell, and have one guy step up that is the underneath guy, catches all the quick stuff, and then being able to use Cameron too effectively with the stable of running backs that this team has. The only question is, does the offensive line hold up? And if they do a serviceable job, you're talking about a truly another national championship just because of what you're bringing back in Bryce Young, what you're bringing back on the defensive side of the ball.
But
This could be the skate. To me, this could be potentially the best Alabama team Nick Saban has fielded on both sides of the ball.
we've been looking for that moment when both run neck and neck, um, where we can dominate an opponent offensively. And defensively. And like I said, this could be that year where we could be equally as dangerous on the offensive side and equally as dominating on the defensive side. So looking forward to that aspect. What is it about when you look at Burton? What is it about his game? I, I mean, to me, he seems like a really good player, but he doesn't seem to. Um, what's up with the um him not I don't know that I see him as in that same category as the other guys. Is he as good as Mechie? Uh was he as good as Mechie at Georgia? I would say no. But the question is, was that because of Bennett? And will he see a tremendous jump like we saw with Williamson?
I think you have to look at the quarterback play as a whole. Stetson Bennett threw for less than 3,000 yards last year. And the tight end had 800, almost 900 of that. So you're talking about there wasn't a lot of balls going around, wasn't a lot of opportunity. When you look at Georgia, they remind you of what Alabama was when Nick Saban first arrived, when you had a John Parker Wilson at quarterback or a Brad McElroy at quarterback, and a stable of running backs with maybe one go-to wide receiver at the time that was Julio. But and I think he has the talent to. This guy was a high end recruit coming out. I think he could be a Mechie type player. He's not as explosive as a Jameson Williams, but that's probably or maybe a Calvin Ridley type. Probably the two guys that I would compare him closest to.
That may be a good comparison, and like I said, if that is the case, X, talk about what that does for the quarterback position at Alabama and for the college game. I mean, the game is slowly becoming more and more like the NFL. But if a guy goes from Georgia, um, where he was a part of their offense to a first round draft pick, similar to what happened with Williamson. Uh, um, mm, um, you know, then all of a sudden you're going to see, I think, the wide receiver position, sure enough, and as they say, show enough, uh, become uh, a position that hops in the portal like nobody's business.
I think you're already starting to see that. I think that's probably quarterback and wide receiver. From what I can tell, what I've seen has always been, or so far, have been the biggest portal moves, just for opportunity and school reasons. When you look at the offensive side of the ball, uh, but yeah, it probably will. The more you see it happen, the more you see guys. Say this year, you see Jordan Addison, he goes out and balls out at USC. Jermaine Burton here at Alabama. Caleb Williams out at USC. Quinn Ewers at Texas. Those are the positions that I feel like you're going to see more likely to move because it's for quarterbacks get to the right system, right coach. For wide receivers, go to the place where you're going to have the most opportunity.
Yeah, and hey, listen, we'll continue to talk about that. And speaking of that, we're going to attempt to bring Hank South in on this side of the broadcast. Got a message from Karen McManus asking, "Hey, why isn't it playing on the app?" We're actually having some technical difficulties on the entire side of broadcasting on the radio airwaves and via our station, Tide 100.9. We're broadcasting strictly via the Martin Houston Network on Restream, my various pages and outlets. So we've never had to bring Hank in this way, but we're going to try to get Hank South in on the other side. But regardless of whether we bring Hank in or not, we are going to have some conversation around recruiting. We've been talking about the wide receiver position. Nick Saban making a little more noise there, and we'll talk more about that right here on the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier, broadcasting on the Martin Houston Network exclusively this morning. So thank you for being a part of the show. If you have any questions or comments that you'd like to get in on the conversation, please add them in the chat box. And remember, Alabama One, your one source for all of your financial needs. Alabama One, last day to get in on the equipment and commercial ag equipment and also the toys loan. You have the potential to get an interest rate as low as 1.99. All things available there, of course, have some restrictions. So give it a try. If you qualify, you'll get as low as 1.99, but we'll get you approved and we'll get you entered into that big green egg. Last day to win that via the promotion. And tomorrow we'll roll out a brand new promotion on autos right here on Alabama One. We'd love to invite you to stop by our branch location as well as invite you to join us at alabama1.org. Thanks for being part of the Martin Houston Show. We'll be back in just a moment right here for more conversation around recruiting. Good morning, Hank. Can you hear the music?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Cool.
All right. Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier. We're broadcasting exclusively on the Martin Houston network on Facebook at Martin Houston Live, Martin Houston Personal, Alabama Tradition, X's and O's Sports, as well as Tide 109 on Facebook. And then, of course, Martin Houston Live on YouTube and at Martin Houston 35. So today we're doing something a little different. We're going to see if we're able to hang in there. Let me verify. X, are you still there?
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's see if we can bring in recruiting guru Hank South 247 Sports, Bama Online Recruiting. Good morning, Hank. How you doing, sir?
Hey, good morning, Martin. I'm good. How are you?
Oh man, doing great, man. You sound great. Glad to have you join, and thank you for being able to run an audible, man. Um, and switch it up and join us this way. So, but we'll get right into it, man. I went out and I saw you uh, look up on in terms of the uh, recruiting that Alabama is doing. Alabama knocking it out of the park in terms of recruits. Just talk about Alabama's last week and what's standing out about the class.
Yeah, ever since we talked last, 5 kids have committed, whether it be 2023 or 2024. So it's kind of been a little explosion of commitments. And excuse me, I'm still getting over sickness, so getting my voice back. But um, yeah, and this typically happens kind of following camp season. We see kids kind of start to come to decisions. With their official visits in the books, ahead of their senior season, get decisions out of the way. Sometimes younger kids like to make decisions after camp when Bama sees them live and hop on board early. So not a huge shock, but I mean it's been a massive run of momentum for Alabama. In several different areas, we saw them laying 5-star cornerback Tony Mitchell on Sunday, which was not a huge surprise that he committed to Alabama, but kind of the timing, I guess, wanting to commit now after, that he's been doing visits and flirting with some other schools, but huge addition there. We saw Brayson Hubbard commit. He's a 3-star athlete from Mississippi that was committed to Southern Miss baseball. He camped at Alabama. He's never played defensive back. He plays quarterback at the high school level, but he worked out as a safety at camp, and Nick Saban loved him, gave him an offer, and now he's part of the class. So that was a camp eval that Bama really liked in Brayson Hubbard. You look back to the junior college level. Justin Jefferson was another guy that Bama absolutely loved in camp, a linebacker from Pearl River Community College. He got an offer before camp, then he came to camp and just wowed the staff. He's a He's a linebacker that runs a 4.3, so a lot to like there. And then on Wednesday, Cole Adams, the 4-star wide receiver from Oklahoma. That's one that's, if you've been following that recruitment, it's Bama's been trending there for a while. It was kind of a matter of whether Oklahoma could overtake Alabama there, and they didn't. He committed to Alabama yesterday, and another kid that has really top-notch speed, 10.6 in the 100, runs a 4. He has a laser time 4.51 4.51 40 as a junior. A really impressive wide receiver prospect that Bama really liked and has been pushing for all year. And then 2024 got its first commitment in Perry Thompson, the 4-star wide receiver from Foley, Alabama. And I keep saying this, but another kid that, and this is emphasize that how important camp is. He was a kid that impressed at camp, got a camp offer, had a really nice sophomore season, got the offer. It was his first really major offer. He's gotten a couple of lower level offers, but Bama has been keeping an eye on him, really liked him. And, I think we'll see him continue to kind of blow up on the recruiting front, especially now that he's committed to Alabama. But really impressive prospect there from Foley, obviously home of Julio Jones. So really big week. I don't think it's going to slow down. I think we're going to see more kids pop in the days to come. There's a lot of decisions set. So yeah, Bama's having a nice little run.
Without a doubt, it is really impressive what Nick Saban has done. There seems to be a trend in every one of these in every one of these recruits. Is it coincidence, or is that kind of the trend that Alabama's pursuing, Hank, when it comes to the entire class all having just unbelievable speed?
It seems to be a trend, and that really seems to be something. I mean, obviously, if you're fast, Bama's always going to take notice, or schools are always going to take notice. But it really seems like Bama's valuing speed and explosion in their prospects. Especially lately. Obviously, like I said, they're always going to go after those kind of guys. But I think, especially in this group of commitments, that they've really coveted that, and definitely offer a lot for the staff to work with. Obviously, David Ballou and those guys can probably take those numbers and better them even more at the next level once they get there. And so yeah, that's kind of been the theme of these commitments.
Yeah, and they're knocking it completely out of the park when it comes to speed. So I guess my follow-up question to you is, Alabama has a big potential get next week in terms of wide receivers, and in terms of the number one JUCO player in the country at his respective position. So where does Bama stand with Justin Jefferson?
Yeah, so I think you mean Malik Benson, right?
No. There was a Justin Jefferson, I think, that put
Yeah,
Alabama.
he committed this week. Justin Jefferson's a linebacker.
I'm sorry, Malik Benson. You're right. Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Justin Jefferson is the linebacker. Malik Benson. Hey, why am I questioning you? You're the guru. Go ahead.
Hey, I mean, Justin Jefferson is a really good receiver for the Minnesota Vikings too. But
no, yeah. So I am justified in that one. That's
right.
That's not being 52. That's or maybe it is.
No, yeah, Malik Benson, another kid, high world. I don't want to say world class speed but no, really good speed. Top rated JUCO prospect from Hutchinson Community College in Kansas. Another kid that got an offer earlier this spring Don't believe he worked out, but I think Bama saw enough from his freshman JUCO season, and then seeing him on the spring eval circuit to realize what kind of prospect he was. Um, but a guy that he took all 5 of his official visits in the month of June. Bama got one of those. It was a midweek visit a couple weeks back. He had named Tennessee as leader, but that was prior to his Bama visit. And I even wrote, I said, I think this is going to be a recruitment where you see he's really going to ride some visit highs. I think that this was his first really exposure to official visits and doing this kind of thing. So obviously, you take one of these visits and that school's the best thing in the world at the time. But I felt like in the long run, or in the few week span that he was doing this, I think Bama was going to kind of come out on top, and I think that's what's happening. He's set to announce on July 5th. And I like where Bama stands for him right now. I think they're going to get him in this class. This could be, Cole Adams, Malik Benson. I'm not sure if you really need to take another receiver. And, I think Bama will still recruit guys. But, after, you signed 5 guys last year, you got the transfer portal in your back pocket. It might not really be necessary to do much more at that position, especially with the 2 caliber of prospects you have and guys like if you're able to get Malik Benson and obviously a guy like Cole Adams.
All right. Speaking of Hank South 247 Sports, Bama online recruiting, without a doubt, Bama making a big time deal. All right. Let's. Xavier sent me a question about wanted to know about Peter Woods and Malik Bryant.
Yeah. That Peter Woods is another one coming up on July 8th. And that one's kind of become a lot more heated of a battle than maybe we anticipated for the last 3 years. For the longest time, it's been considered, Bama's the team to beat for Peter Woods. He's enjoying the process. He's taking these visits. But the last few weeks, Clemson has really kind of made a run for him. They got him on an official visit earlier in the month of June and really knocked it out of the park from everything we're told. And it went kind of from, oh, well, yeah, Clemson's probably his number 2 school to, oh, well, Clemson might actually get him, which is kind of crazy to still say. And I'm still not totally convinced that that's going to happen. But I know that, Clemson is a major contender in this recruitment. And it's not, Bama's not a home run lock for Peter Woods any longer. So still a little bit of time to play out, a little bit over a week. He was back. He's been to Tuscaloosa. It's kind of a weird situation. He's been to Tuscaloosa the last 2 weekends, but he hasn't been on campus to visit with the staff. He's been seeing family or he's been around some of the players, but still that could be beneficial for Alabama's chances. But he's a kid that's been to Bama probably 50 times throughout his recruitment. So there's really not much more he needs to see. So, they're still working on him. They're still trying to add him to this class. And, even if he did ultimately commit to Clemson, it's going to be a situation where, Bama's going to keep pushing for him and try to get him by signing day. So it wouldn't be over, but, it would certainly not help if he committed to Clemson. But we'll see. I'm not changing my pick off Bama just yet. I'm leaning more towards Clemson as of late, but it's still, I think you gotta give Bama some closing credit there to see what they can do. But Malik Bryant, that's one Bama's been trending in for a while, and it's another one. It hasn't always been a Bama. It's not really. He hasn't really been seen as a Bama lean for a long time. It was more since kind of April when he took his visit. That's kind of when Bama started trending. Then he came back in June, worked out, hung out for a couple of days. He's set to announce on July 23rd. And I think this is kind of shaping up to be Alabama versus Miami. And, I'm not sure. He took his official visit to Miami and, with everything with NIL, I'm sure that's playing a role. And, I even asked him the last time I spoke to Malik Bryant, I said, how big of a factor is NIL for you? And he said, obviously, I want to make, he wants to profit off his name, image, likeness, but it's not going to be his deciding factor. So, he says that. We'll see if he follows through with that. But I think he's really enamored by Bama. I think his mom really likes Bama. And so I'm still picking Bama ahead of July 23rd. But, not with a ton of confidence, but leaning Bama.
All right. Well, Hank, man, I appreciate, like I said, appreciate you hitting an audible this morning.
Sure.
We have been able to get back live and local on the radio airwaves on the other side. So go ahead and tell all of our listeners, those on the Martin Houston Network, as well as those on Tide 100.9, what you got coming up in the next week or so.
Yeah, it's. I think we're going to see more kids set decision dates. Obviously, we got Peter Woods, Malik Benson's coming up, a couple other kids announcing. So, a lot coming. SEC Media Days on the horizon. BamaOnline.com, and then I think we're doing a special right now, 2 months for $1. So awesome time to join. And then my Twitter handle is @HankSouth247.
All right, the best follow in recruiting, that is @HankSouth247. Thanks, Hank. We'll catch up with you next week.
Yes, sir. Thanks, guys.
All right, coming back on the other side, we'll continue the conversation right here on the Martin Houston Show. We'll be bringing X in. We'll bring Joe in. Just some wrap-up thoughts from today's program. Thank you for being a part of the show. And don't forget, go check out Overflow Express Wash, overflowexpresswash.com. Hey, they'll help you keep your car clean inside and out. Andy Phillips and his team do a great job. And don't forget, you can get a Supreme Wash package. I mean, the top level as low as $23.99. I mean, you're missing a great opportunity if you've not joined Overflow Express Wash. Go check them out at overflowexpresswash.com. Hello, this is Martin Houston with the Martin Houston Show, and I want to tell you about Tuscaloosa Custom Curbing. If you're looking for a way to add value to your home, make your flower beds pop, make your landscaping stand out from your neighbors, then Tuscaloosa Custom Curbing can help you do just that. They have numerous styles, but they feature the Moroccan Stone Curb series, which includes 4 great styles and unlimited color choices. That's Tuscaloosa Custom Curbing. They are the one that can help you stand out from your neighbors. Tuscaloosa Custom Curbing, 205-331-6823. You may also find yourself with the need for a custom size stone or custom shaped stone. Then Tuscaloosa Custom Curbing can help with that as well. Paul Fuller and his team are waiting on your call right now for that free quote. And if you tell them that Martin Houston with the Martin Houston Show told you to stop by, you'll get a big discount. So call Tuscaloosa Custom Curbing at 205-331-6823 or visit them online at Tuscaloosa Custom Curbing, LLC.
Tuscaloosa Tire and Service, they've got the big brands you know and trust. Goodyear, Firestone, Bridgestone, Cooper, and they can finance for you as well. When you need routine maintenance and alignment, a tune-up, whatever it is, belts, hoses, just basic stuff, or when you don't know what's wrong with your car, truck, or SUV, make it Tuscaloosa Tire and Service. They're dependable, they're trustworthy. That's why they've lasted for over 36 years. Skyland Boulevard, McFarland Boulevard East in Northport on Lurleen Wallace Boulevard. Check out the website, TuscaloosaTireandService.com.
In a collision, easy decision. Make one call to one name, Mesrano, 206-6300.
No representation made the quality of legal services to be performed is greater than quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
It's the Tuscaloosa Community Calendar, powered by Pepsi. You probably want to grill out and hit the road for a much-needed vacation this summer, but scammers want to scam you out of buying a new grill online or hit you with a fake ad for a hotel. So this summer, don't get burnt by more than the sun. If something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. No matter what you're buying, buy from trusted vendors and sources. So whatever your goals are this summer, look for the sign of the Better Business Bureau at bbb.org.
It's time for the Martin Houston Show. With the same hard-hitting, no-nonsense approach in which he played the game, Martin will take you inside the locker room, down on the field, and across the goal line with his in-depth analysis.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show on Tide 100.9. Hey, we'll pick up a conversation we were having on yesterday regarding the Heisman Trophy conversation. Of course, that was some great conversation with Hank South, 247 Sports, Bama Online Recruiting, joining us and talking with us about what's happening with recruiting and Nick Saban and recruiting speed. But hey, yesterday we started a little conversation, X and Joe, around the Heisman Trophy. So I kind of told you guys I would follow back up with that. So first question is, should they move the timing of the voting when it comes to the Heisman Trophy?
Till when would you want to move it to?
After the season, versus picking it when they pick it before the season's over, especially when you have the potential. Let's say that this upcoming year, Stroud and Young are two of the top candidates, and they both make the playoffs, and you give one the Heisman, before the playoffs, and then the other one outshines them. But they were close candidates, and the play head to head would have changed things.
I'm perfectly good, okay with that, moving it to after the national championship game. I think it's funny to go back and look at how many Heisman Trophy winners wouldn't have been if that was the case. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I'd be okay with that. I don't know if Bryce would have won it last year.
Well, who do you think would have won it then?
I think it would have been Stroud. If you look at Stroud's bowl game, if you're talking about playing it after the end of at the end of the season, look how Stroud played in his bowl game versus what the last thing people saw from Bryce.
I don't know. I think you look at the level of the game too. I don't think you just give it, and that's why they used to vote earlier. Xavier, is because the bowl games didn't matter. They used to vote after the regular season, and it was only when I say didn't matter, the season was over. There was no championship pretty much on the line for virtually anybody. So I just think the timing. I think you're voting too early right now. And I also think that another element of that they need to change is that you should not be able to have your vote in, even at the time it is. It's electronic now, right? Even if you're going to vote after the bowl game, after the championship weekend, the conference championship weekend, you should not be able to have your vote in before then, because most of the time it's already decided. Because they vote. You used to have to mail them in. Okay, what's the rush now? You hit it in a button and you send an email or text, whatever it is. So anyway, um, should they look at maybe having a offensive and a defensive same level? In other words, kind of like they do the MVP of a game. It's the offensive MVP and the defensive MVP. I know they give out like Player of the Year awards for offensive player and defensive player, but the Heisman still reigns supreme. Should they create a defensive award that's viewed at the same level as the Heisman?
No, I mean yes and no. Yes, because they don't seem to change their ways, but no, in the sense, let's be real. If there's been plenty of times a defensive player has been the best player in the country and has put up numbers to back that up, it's time to break this mentality of only offensive players can win the Heisman instead
Yeah,
of having to go and make a completely new award.
yeah, and that's unfortunately, to be fair to the great defensive players of old and of today, there have been numerous times when the best player in college football was clearly a defensive player, like Ndamukong Suh was the best player in college football. And in today's culture, Ndamukong Suh may win it, but who knows? I guess the next question is, can Alabama legitimately have three candidates in New York for the Heisman finalists if Rick lives up to the hype he's getting?
I don't think number 3 would be Rick.
I said if he lives up to the
Right.
hype he's getting. Not.
I
I
don't.
mean, I don't think he's gonna make it either. But
No, I don't think even if he lives up to the hype, it would be a cornerback making it. Not, and I know this is great, but to me, it's easier for a linebacker or a defensive lineman, edge rusher to make it than a DB. You're talking about a DB would have to have 12 to 15 interceptions, give up no yards on the season, in my opinion. Versus an edge rusher, you can have a guy that has 20 plus sacks, 30-plus tackles for a loss. I think it's easier for the a linebacker, similar, like crazy number of tackles and things of that nature. I think the only way Alabama has 3 players in New York for the Heisman is Bryce Young, Will Anderson Jr., and Jahmyr Gibbs.
And the only caveat I would add to that, Xavier, is if Eli Ricks gets the extra boost of being a return guy, because
yes,
the one guy who won it over a quarterback from the defensive side of the ball was Charles Woodson. So, and he was a return specialist along with what he did. He shouldn't have won it over Peyton, but he got enough votes and he had enough of other stuff. And that would be, and I don't know if Ricks is a return guy or not, but I guess the possibility of it being, those two and Jahmyr Gibbs is just as big a reality too, because he's gotten a lot of hype. Hey, X, appreciate you being a part. Appreciate you being flexible this morning. Thanks, Joe, for continuing to push through. This is the Martin Houston Show. I want to thank all of my great listeners, followers, chatters, and viewers. We'll be back here on tomorrow, same bat time, same bat channel. Thanks for those who jumped on with us this morning. And CJ will talk about your question as well. For the Martin Houston Show, remember this: trust in the Lord always, lean not your own understanding, all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your path. Roll Tide out there, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app. Tide 100.9 traffic.
From the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center, no active wrecks. Everything looking pretty good on this Thursday morning. Of course, if you do see conditions throughout the day that folks need to hear about,